Hello, hi there. My name is Tim, and today we will have a short training video about how to best teach a Pathways English Phonics class. And before we get to the lesson itself, before we get to the PowerPoint presentation, let's have a quick look at the teaching plan. Now, it's important to note, first of all, that there are some elements of this teaching plan that refer to the old PowerPoint. So we'll get to that in just a moment. The important parts to note for us as foreign teachers are these parts here. These parts here. The other sections refer to the activities and the teaching plan for the local Chinese teachers. So in more detail, we will go through in more detail some of these activities and the key points of the class. So let's take a look. Let's take a look. As you can see here, highlighted are the sections that we are to focus on, the sections that relate to what we are doing, the different activities that we will find throughout the lesson. In this column, we have the goal, what the activity intends to do, why we are doing it. In this column, we have which skills are being practiced, which skills are important. And in this column, we have the desired teaching outcomes, what we hope to achieve with these activities. As you can see, for part of the warm-up, we will be introducing the key phonetic sound, which in this case is the A sound, the letter A and the A sound. Later on, I will talk about techniques and practices that we can use to correctly teach the synthetic phonics for classes such as this, and how we can also correct our students as we teach the phonics. But let's have a look further into the lesson plan. We can see an activity here, sharp eyes. This activity has actually been taken out of this particular PowerPoint, but you can still understand how we can go about reading this lesson plan, how we can get the most information out of this lesson plan. This is still all very relevant. These key words, the syllables, blending the sounds. Focus on the target sound by listening. This is very useful information. It's a good idea to preview the lesson plan and then preview the PowerPoint before you teach a class. This can really help you out. Again, we have another activity that focuses on the key sounds. The students must listen and identify the correct sound. So the lesson plan gives you an idea of what is to be expected, what's coming up in the class, the key words, the key sounds. All of this is very useful information. And you can see down here, we're back to the local teacher, and you can ignore this part. This part has subsequently changed, but that's okay. And it's clear in the PowerPoint where your section of the class begins and where it ends, where you introduce yourself and then when you say goodbye and you hand the lesson back to the local teacher. So I think you can read through in more detail lesson plans such as this one, but now you have an idea of the kind of information that you will find in there. Now you have an idea of the sort of important things that you should brush up on before we teach a class. So now I think we're ready. We can go and have a look at the lesson in question. Here we are. When you load up the PowerPoint into the ClassIn software, you'll be greeted by a window such as this. For the purposes of this training video, I'm not able to expand it any bigger, but you can adjust the size of the PowerPoint to correctly fit over about 2/3 of the screen. You can fit the PowerPoint in so it's a more perfect fit than this one. We don't start our section of the lesson on this slide, and nor this one. We go to this slide here. Let's welcome. Every slide, every PowerPoint, sorry, will have a transitional slide like this, where the local teacher is introduced. You can usually log into the class early, and you can turn off your camera and microphone while the local teacher is doing their part of the warm-up. So, when it is about 30 seconds before the class is due to begin, I usually turn on my camera, maybe a minute before I turn on my camera, and I give the local teacher a chance to introduce me or say hello. Sometimes the children straight away will scream hello and start waving, which is nice to see. If you'd like, you can also write your name here so that the students can remember your name, they can remember who you are, because you will be hopefully having the same students every week, the same classes each week. So that's great. After a quick introduction, I always ask the students, how are you? The students can usually respond, I'm fine, thank you, and you? And I usually like to ask if they are ready to learn. Are you ready? And often they will just shout yes. And this is an opportunity. I like to bring in another little sentence structure. I'm ready, or let's go. Again, this can depend on the level of the students, but we'll get back to that in a moment. So, the level of the students can change, even if you have the exact same PowerPoint. If you have two different classes, one class, the students may have already started to read, they may already have a good basis in English. Whereas another class, you are their first experience, you are their first time blending phonics sounds together, learning the letters, and learning how to read. So there can be a big difference in the ability of different classes, and it's important to be flexible in that regard so you can adjust to different classes appropriately. But anyway, let's begin. So here is the title page. You remember to press the play button to begin the animations in the PowerPoint. And here we have the target letter and the target sound highlighted for us. You can go ahead and highlight it again if you'd like to make it even clearer. You have all of these pens and drawing implements available to you in ClassIn, so make the most of them. You can use them, they can be very helpful. This is a good chance to practice the A sound with the students. Ah, ah, ah. You can feel free to use props such as flashcards. This one has the letter A and an apple. I also have some letters here which I use occasionally. You can use, obviously, for happy and sad, you can use your facial expressions. You can also use props like these faces. Very simple, very easy, very cheap. And these can really help give a visual impression and help the students who are more visual learners to pick up on what's going on. we'll have another chance in just a moment to practice the words happy and sad. So actually, sometimes I like to ask the students, have you got your book? Have you got your book? Or perhaps, show me your book. And this allows the students to know that it's time to start reading. It's time to get their books out, and we're ready to learn. So that's a useful tool. Here we have the letter A, and oh yes, so we do actually, I made a mistake, we do have the activity sharp eyes that I was telling you about. So we're looking for the A sound. The students can say no when they don't see it, and they can clap when they do see it. In order to give the instructions, you can use TPR, you can use instructional TPR. When let's look for A. Let's look for A. When you see A, you can clap and say A. Okay? This instructional TPR will help the students to know what is expected of them, and you also have the the local teacher in the classroom to help with these instructions if the students are unable to completely understand. But it's a very simple game, and the students will pick up on it very quickly. No! No! Always remember to give lots of encouragement, and you can give awards to your students as well using the awards tool up at the top. So now we can introduce our characters. This may be the first time the students have met these characters. Once they've taken a few of these classes, they become more familiar with the characters and their names. But if this is the first time they're meeting Ben the dog, and you ask who is he, they may shout dog, because they may know the word dog already. Yes, it's a dog. You can again use TPR. This time it is explanatory TPR. Pretend to be a dog. It's fun for the students, and it gives an extra level of visuality to it. As we introduce his name, my name is Tim. His name is Ben. Now we can blend the phonics sounds. B, e, n. And there's different ways to do this using instructional TPR. B, e, n, Ben. Some students find it easier if we just blend two letters at first. E, n, n. E, n, n. And then we can add B, N, Ben. B, N, Ben. It's important to correct the students. It's tricky. The N sound especially is tricky. Sometimes the students will say Ben, which we would prefer to avoid. Ben, not Ben. And this can be a tricky word for the students. But if we help them, if we can correct them, and we use some repetition, some shadow reading, then the students will be able to pick it up more easily. So there are some techniques for blending and using the TPR to give a visual representation. There are different ways you can do it, and whatever feels comfortable for you. I like to mix it up. I like to use different ones depending on how I'm feeling. There's no set way to blend the phonics. There's no set way for the TPR, at least, to blend the phonics. So feel free to use whatever techniques feel comfortable to you. So let's continue. We have some more characters. Let me just go back. So here we do have a chance now to, if we've already learned happy and sad on the title page, now we have a chance to reinforce this. Is Ben happy or sad? As an extension question, we can ask, look at Ben. Look at Ben. Is Ben happy? No. Is Ben sad? Yes, Ben is sad. This is a way to extend the lesson and reinforce those new words, happy and sad. And here's another character. Here we have Peg. Again, we're going to quickly blend the phonic sounds. Of course, the key phonic sound is the ah sound. So we don't have to spend too much time blending the sounds for Ben, Peg, and Gus. We don't have to spend too much time, but it's a good idea if we blend the sounds here, considering it could be the first time the students are meeting these characters, first time they're learning their names. So that's why we're blending the the letters in this case. In subsequent lessons, you will not need to, you shouldn't need to blend the sounds for the characters. That once the students become more familiar with them, it will not be a problem. Today we will learn a story about Ben, Peg, and Gus. This is a transitional slide, and we can, review these names, these three names that we've learned. So you don't have to spend too much time here. And now we begin the picture walk, the reading segment, the story segment of our class. And here we like to highlight the key sound. We like to, and then we like to blend the sounds together. Ah, s, ah, d, sad, s, ah, d, sad. So we first highlight the key sound, and then we blend the phonics together. As a whole class or as smaller groups, we can ask students to read this word, just the word. And again, you can use TPR, happy or sad. And you can even ask individual students to read the word. This really helps the students to build their confidence. If you can ask, who can try? Who can read? And if you put your hand up, maybe the students will volunteer. The local teacher can select a student and they can try to answer. They can try to blend the sounds independently. Always make sure you're giving a lot of encouragement, well done, and awards, and also correcting the student if they need to be corrected. Once we've got the word, then maybe we can read the sentence. Shadow reading could be very useful at this stage, depending on the level of the students. Most students will be able to read after you. Not every student will be able to read independently. So again, this comes down to the individual class and the level of the students. But let's continue. So the lesson continues in a very similar way to the way we've already been talking about. We can highlight the key phonetic sound. We show the three phonetic sounds, and we blend the phonetic sound, and we use TPR to give a visual representation. I even have a little finger puppet of a dog. Pat, pat, pat. And you can ask the students to pat your head, pat your arm, pat your shoulder. The students can follow you, and you can practice the word pat. Now, we have a new word, bad. Again, the lesson is progressing in similar to the previous few slides. We are highlighting the phonetic sound. We are blending the phonetic sounds, and then hopefully the students can try to speak more independently. And depending on their level, we may be able to read the full sentence, or at the very least, the students can shadow read after you. I had one quite advanced class, and on this slide I said, "Oh no, my homework!" And the students were slightly more advanced, and they knew the word homework, and they thought this was very funny. So any ways that you can make the lesson more engaging, more interesting, get the students laughing, these are all great things. But again, it depends on the level of the students, so try to gauge where the students are at. Try to gauge quickly what level the students are at, and then your extension questions and your extension exercises can be adjusted based on their ability. The lesson will continue to progress just as it has before. Make sure you, for this sentence, for example, bad boy Ben, we can again use our TPR. We can use our TPR. And here we can say, we can practice the sounds. We've already seen this word. Maybe the students will recognize this from the previous slide. Especially if you use your TPR, this might be a good opportunity for a student or a group of students to try to read this word more independently. As happy and sad are the key words of this class, there's a nice extension question here. Tim, is he happy? No. Is he sad? No. He's angry. This is another emotion, and it uses the ah sound too. Angry. And of course you can show this again using another prop or using your TPR. Angry. Angry. The lesson will progress very much so as it has done before. We're using the same techniques. We're using the same blending techniques, TPR, body language. Everyone is, high energy. The kids are having a great time. And here I wanted to highlight something. So, I don't know. You can use TPR. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. This is a very useful sentence. Even if the students are at a low level, they can perhaps shadow you and copy the sentence. It's important that the students are able to say, I don't know. If they don't know an answer, that's okay. So it's a very useful sentence for them to learn. I don't know. And then, what do you think? This might be a tricky sentence for a low-level students to understand, but you can again use TPR. What do you think? What do you think? And maybe the students can start to think. They can start to use some processing, some of their own brain power. And of course, the local teacher can also help. You can ask students if you think Gus is happy or sad. Again, if the students are a very low level, this might be too difficult for them, so adjust as necessary. We're getting to the end of our story, so here is a review. Hopefully by now, the students can look at Ben. The students can look at Ben. They can look at you, your TPR, or your prop, whichever you prefer. And you can highlight the word. Maybe the students at this point, because we've been practicing, maybe the students at this point can say sad. Maybe they can read this word independently at this point. Ben, and then remember to incorporate the full sentence. Ben is sad. If we can get the students speaking in complete sentences, even at an early stage, it can be very useful for them. So this is important. Again, much of the same. We're reviewing. We've got happy. We've got the ah sound. maybe the students can just see that she is happy and they can say happy, and remember to try to encourage the full sentence. And now how does Gus feel? Gus is sad. So remember before we said how does Gus feel? I don't know. Sometimes I do like to highlight the question mark. It's been sort of here. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Now we can play a guessing game. Now we can play a guessing game again if the students understand that they can start to think, is he happy or sad? What do I think? What do I think? So this we can say yes, Gus is sad at the end of the guessing game. And finally, we have a chance for the students to blend some more words. So we can ask individual students, or we can ask the whole class to blend the sounds. As you can see, the way that the letters appear is the best way that they can be blended together. At, k, at, cat, k, at, cat. Again, use your instructional TPR to reinforce this, give it a visual element. And maybe the students know what a cat is. Maybe you could be a cat. Maybe you have a cat prop or a puppet or a flashcard. These can be very useful. Gives it more of a visual element. And we're going to blend the words in much the same way. Much the same way. Add, 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 add. But as I said before, we need to correct our students. If they're saying sad, we need to break the word down again, especially with the ad, not add, and repetition and blending the phonics together as a group, or if an individual student is struggling, we can help them. It's just important that we make these necessary corrections. It's the same with the S sound. S-ad. It's not s-ad, it's sad. So the phonetic sound for S is not s, but s. There are many videos, I'm sure, online on YouTube, teaching teachers like us how to do synthetic phonics, and occasionally, sometimes they get it wrong actually. So be careful if you watch a training video relating to synthetic phonics. It's not s or t, it's s and t. So this is an important thing to remember, and it's an important thing to remember when it comes to correcting the pronunciation of the students. Right now, I believe this is the very end, after this blending exercise. Yes, see you next time. We have reached the end of our class. And one last thing to note regarding our classes, it's good to prepare. It's good to prepare ahead of time, as well as the lesson plan. You can preview all of your classes. Getting the pacing just right can be very difficult, especially at first if you're a new teacher. It's important to try and get through all of the material within good time. It's a good idea to practice, and it will get easier with time. As long as you hit the main points and you've achieved as many of the positive student outcomes as possible, then it's not the biggest problem in the world if you don't get through all of the material, as long as you have done the blending exercises, as long as the students have had a chance to read, as long as the students understand the vocabulary words, good, bad, happy, sad. But if you practice the pacing, then it will get easier. It will get easier. If you can time your class to end as close to the 30-minute mark as possible. A few seconds over is okay, and you can pass back to the local teacher. I like to sing a little song at the end, see you next time. But if you're not very musical, you can just say goodbye and thank you to the students. The students can say thank you to you, and you can simply log out after that. So I hope that our walkthrough today with some of our teaching tips and techniques and everything else can be useful to you in providing an effective and engaging phonics class for your students. I'm sure that they are going to love you. So thank you very much for watching, and happy teaching. Bye-bye.